So some people say, all you need is love. What kind of love do you need? What is love? The love of God, or a love that I feel merely? So, what's the difference between a human being and an animal? Is that a human being, the head is on top, then comes the heart, and then comes the arms and the feet. Versus an animal, most animals, right? They're all on fours. So the head, the heart, and the body are all on the same level. So the human condition is, the way it's supposed to be, is that the mind, right? We learned this earlier about the uniqueness of a Beinoni. This is the human condition, the intellectual soul, even not the godly soul, that every human being has the capability of the mind having dominion over the heart. Meaning, your heart has an urge, you can push that away. Furthermore, your mind has an understanding of something. It can develop a full, palpable feeling in the heart. You have an understanding about God. You can have a love of and awe of God. You have an understanding how great Tanya is. You really feel it. In your heart. You really are in your heart. And then from the heart, what does it do? Well, mind to the heart, to the hands and feet, to action, to behavior. If you want more and in an intimate and personal setting, together with like-minded people who seek to grow and become their truest self, click the link below in the description and join the Tanya Rabbi community, TRC. You can join the first month risk-free at no charge at tanyarabbi.com/TRC. Click below. Looking forward to seeing you. Of action, speech, and of course thought. So that is the regular normative way. That's the human condition. Animals are not like that, and therefore animals, the brain is only there to serve its instinct. That's not the way it's meant to be for us. Now, we have an animal soul, so we can be that way too. Of course, that's not our desire. We want to be human, or better yet, striving to be godly. So godly means, well, the humanness would be that you understand something, it brings to a feeling, and then brings to action. Godly means that you understand something about God. And then that would bring you to a feeling towards God, a love and awe of God. And then that love and awe is enclosed in your actions and your words and in your speech, and is the intent, the motivation for what you do. But I think we probably notice that we sometimes ourselves, or people that we know, that they just don't have they don't have strong feelings. But yet somehow they are motivated to do good, to do the godly, by the understanding in their mind. That leads to or an intellectual love that leads to an understanding heart. So we see that. Now let's examine this for a moment. Intellect and emotions seemingly are different worlds. So why would intellect affect emotions? Because in intellect, you also have emotions. In emotions, you also have intellect. What does that mean? So pure intellect is when you're studying Tanya, let's say by example, or studying something that it's just pure intellect that there's no no sense about it. You get it, it's like your eyes are opened, right? But then when you go, oh wow, amazing. What's that? What does that mean? That's the emotion in intellect. It's not an emotion yet, a real emotion, because it's the response to the grasp of an idea, that becomes something real in your mind. In your mind, you're saying amazing. Once you've said that, oh my gosh, amazing stuff in your mind, so that's the emotion of the intellect, intellectual love. From there, now it can give birth to a real emotion. Or if it's not, you're not capable of the real emotion, of the love and awe that's palpable in the heart, at least in understanding heart. Again, it's a heart. Heart feels. What do you mean it's understanding? It's okay. It's good with it. So that understanding heart then will lead the person to act. Now, important idea is, you give birth to something, to someone, to a child, right? So before you give birth, the child's a part of you. And then the child becomes independent of you. So is the child a part of you or independent of you? Well, both, right? At different stages. So likewise, when we speak about intelligence, if you were in Tanya is called in the 3rd chapter, it's called mothers. Because what do mothers do? They give birth. What does intellect do? It gives birth. It gives birth to emotions. So in birth, you can have the birth of a child in an open, revealed way and a concealed way, spiritually at least. I mean, physically, a child can give birth to. So in the revealed way means that child that you gave birth to, the emotion, is a reality of its own world. Yes, it's infused with the mother, the father, right, and the parents that give birth, or here metaphorically, the mother, is yes a part of, and that means the intelligence, therefore, is a part of that emotion, but yet it becomes an entity of its own, meaning a full-blown, palpable feeling of love and awe of God, or of Tanya that we're learning, or whatever mitzvah that you're engaged in. But it doesn't always work that way. And if we probably look at our lives, probably not often do we really have a palpable feeling, at least towards God. Maybe we have palpable feelings in other areas, but those palpable feelings may not even be from the godly soul. It might be the animal soul, on the contrary, right? It might be the lust of the heart rather than a love of the heart, right? Meaning they came from different parts of the heart, right? Lust of the heart is the animal soul in the left ventricle of the heart, metaphorically, and the love of the heart is in the right ventricle of the heart, which is the result of our goodness and godliness, the godly soul. So, is all you need is love? That concept in the world is about you doing something for me that makes me feel loved. Here, it's about me doing something, meditating, thinking about, being mindful about God in my life, that brings me to a love of Him. Whether it's palpable or it's only in the understanding heart, well, both are great. And it's not it's not a lesser love when you have that understanding heart. It is amazing that we can accomplish such a thing. And this, by the way, in relationships also works really well. All you need is love means I have an expectation that you're going to do something for me that's going to make me feel loved, and therefore love you more. Here, what this is saying, to translate into human relations, is that let me be mindful of what I can do for you. And that will produce a love. Let me be mindful about you, about your greatness. Well, greatness of God, right? So the greatness of you. And what I can do for you. What are your needs that I can fulfill for you? That's what we're meditating upon when we speak about God. Well, maybe that's what we should meditate upon in our marriage. Not what have you done for me lately? With that expectation. But what do I expect of me to be mindful of you that will give me a greater feeling towards you, and that will lead for me to do something for you, as we do for God, a commandment. 613 of them in study of Torah. That is powerful. That, and if it's even not a complete palpable feeling in your heart, that's okay. You were mindful and it brought you to do something for your loved one, then indeed all you need is love. But it's a different kind of love, or a different focus on the love. All right, let's open it up. Questions and comments and thoughts. If you got it, folks, this idea, it's pretty powerful. Okay. 2 question marks before. Reminder, 1 o'clock, we have Rambam. A reminder. Also, go to TanyaRabbi.com. If you missed anything here, you can get it on the rebound. Julie, is there a chart and elbows in the body which apply to a Kabbalah? I think the right address of the heart. Not certain. I mean, there are certain things, that show, the body, the chesed on the right, and the Gvura on the left, and so on the right arm, and you can see that. Besides that, I'm not certain. Okay. Yeah, no, sorry, more than that, I don't know. Vida, I know people who tend to be just intellectual, and I know people who tend to be just emotional. How can one truly balance intellect and emotions when one is prone to choose one over the other? Well, that's the mindfulness that we're talking about over here. We are who we are, but that's not where we want to stay. That's, Beinoni in training means that we want to train ourselves to be not merely natural, instinctual animals, even maybe nicer ones, but we want to be godly. We want to be godly. So we got to, with this mindfulness, we can work on it. The Alter Rebbe is giving us a way over here, which is amazing. Okay, Rav, we're not going to deal with outside issues now, if you don't mind. I'm going to deal with the topic at hand. Yeah, I'm just a reminder that we're going to deal with what our discussion is every day, and anything outside of that, if there's time, I can deal with, and that will be only at the end. So don't put it anywhere that I'm going to lose the feed. So I don't want to deal with anything that is outside our discussion right now. Sarah, so basically love is an action, not just an emotion. No, love is love. And the question is, the uniqueness over here is that the non-palpable love, but the understanding heart that you have, God joins it to the action, meaning that because it led you to action, action is action, love is love, and intellect is intellect. Because it led you to the action, that's a sign that it's something real. That's the beauty over here. That it's something real. It's not like something, oh, you're not really feeling it. You didn't give me enough emotion. Yeah, but I did the deed. I brought, so, okay, sometimes you got to work on yourself more to have that emotion or to develop the emotion. But we need to recognize that there's something extremely powerful and meaningful. That's the novelty of this of this idea over here, is that, hey, it led me to do this action. So it wasn't a full-blown feeling, but, the action is the most important thing. And actually to tie in with, the great debate between Tevye the milkman and his wife Golda and Fiddler on the Roof, where he asks her, do you love me? Do you love me? And what does she answer? What do you mean? For 25 years I washed your clothes and I fed you, and so on. So what's he asking? He's asking, like, did you bring a feeling to me? Did you bring me to feel loved? What did you do? I have an expectation. Do you love me? Did you bring that, romantic sort of feeling that I should have? And what'd she say? What do you mean? 25 years I've done for you that expresses the love. That expresses the love. So it's the action that's expressing the love. The novelty over here is that even if you don't have that palpable feeling, but it led you to that, that's joined in our mitzvah that we do for God to go on high. It's eternal. It's amazing. And the same thing in human relations. We need to know that. All right, I hope that was clear. We're going to get to Clubhouse in a moment. Just want to make sure I got all of the... during morning prayer, prior to Shema, reading Emet, and God can bring me to tears. This is what you're teaching. All right. Okay, good. That's amazing. Okay, Rav, please, again, I'm not going to deal with things outside of our discussion right now. Thank you for understanding that. Okay. So, David, I know people who will say only intellect. Like the study of Torah is the only way to connect with, and I know that they say the intent is more important to connect. It seems very hard to let go of your natural character. Of course it's hard, and that's our struggle, and that's what we work on ourselves, and that's why we're, having the discussion over here so we can become what we can become. Can arrogant... Please, a reminder, 2 question marks before you ask a question, so that way I can make that I know that I need to look at it. Can arrogance be good in a stubborn child? What is... Oh, okay. Sorry. again, we're not going off at this point, okay? We're going to remain. Mark.
Rabbi, it's so wonderful.
Thank you.
It's such a wonderful way to wake up with a nice Torah lesson. I just love it. I guess what I wanted to ask you,
Sure.
Related specifically to your topic, is if you're, I still sometimes struggle with trying to separate the idea of your intellect, the mind and body, the godly soul versus the sort of animal or animalistic, body. And then when you were speaking of, how like the intellect was the part, I sort of feel like tefillah, like the fact that we're commanded to pray and to do certain things is essentially God's way of telling us, especially men specifically, that we need to, our body needs to, our soul needs to teach our body to do things so that we then will have the intellect to carry it out. These rituals and things.
Right. So I guess what we're trying over here, that Tanya is trying to do with us is that, we can do it in a manner of rote, because either we were raised that way or second nature, we became that way at some point in life. But it's, not engaging the mind. And again, the difference between the human and the animal is, we're on 2 feet, the head is on top, and then comes the heart, and then comes the actions, which are metaphorically, or not even metaphorically, in reality, your hands and your feet, right? That brings you to action, to do. If you look at the letter Gimel in Hebrew, it is like 2 feet, one in front of the other, and bending over forward. And the word Gimel means Gomel, to do, right? So it's to action, bring us to action. So yes, the action is the most important thing, but what we're trying to do here, and a Bainani training means to activate the mind, that it should feed the heart. Now, again, what we talked about over here, and the uniqueness over here, is activating the heart could be that it's only an understanding heart, and it's not a real, full-blown feeling in the heart. And yet, that is fine. That's beautiful. That's amazing. So, you're right. We've got all these different components and in our being, but here is that whatever kind of mindfulness that we can have, that will then becomes the motivation, right? That usually motivation is something of the heart, but here it's, it starts with the mind, that motivates the heart, or inspires the heart, right? That it brings an excitement to the heart, a love in the heart, and so on, that then brings you to action. So when we can think of it in those terms, then I think we are moving forward in our lives in this respect. Does that resonate?
Yeah, Rabbi, that's beautiful. I just want you to know that as myself, about tshuva, coming from secular to being more observant, this is for me the hardest thing. And I'm a little bit of a shliach myself, with some of my friends who are more secular, and to get them to take action, whether it's, to lay tefillin or whatever it might be, from a little thing to a small thing, when they don't intellectually understand it or appreciate it, it is a very difficult thing. So you've helped me with that. But I'm sure I'm not teaching you anything. You're teaching me, but that to me is a really critical point in probably a lot of the work you do with folks that are learning more and becoming more interested, is how to get them over that hump, because they didn't grow up doing these rituals and these rote things. So it's new, and they say to me, I'm sure they say to you, they say, well, why? That's crazy. Why should I do that? It doesn't make any sense,
Right.
It's hard to get them to do it, but if you can explain it in a beautiful way like you're doing, it's very helpful.
Great.
So thank you.
Yes. Actually, I want to add to that, Mark. Thank you for bringing that up. This is one route, and we'll actually, in chapter 35, we'll come to a different angle that we will discuss. Remember, this is Sefer Shel Beinoni. This is the book of the intermediate, the Beinoni, right? So we're talking about someone who's already, a committed Jew, right? A very committed Jew, right? That they have such mastery over their behavior of thought, speech, and action. So someone who is very distant. So just to add to what you're saying, sometimes it could be the other way around. Instead, and this is the Rebbe's uniqueness in our generation. The Alter Rebbe is teaching from his generation, and there's always a novelty in each generation. And there is a novelty in our generation, seventh generation. The generation is going to finally bring the Shekhinah, the divine presence, into this world, that God's presence will be real and palpable in this world, and that's what redemption, Mashiach, means. And how can it be done is the opposite. What I was talking about till now is from up, down, from the head to the heart to your actions. But there's another way, and that's called down up. What's down up? Meaning, start with your actions. Just do it. Just do the mitzvah. And from doing the mitzvah, you will come to feel something and appreciate about the mitzvah. So it's actually the other way around. This is not the way we're talking about over here, but there is another way of inspiring a person. And how come? Because in the end, Torah and mitzvahs is a part of the Jewish soul, and therefore it's a part of their DNA. And sometimes just by doing the act, you can release something of their soul. Now, if it's something that's really distant from them, and like you said, Mark, that they're questioning and this and that, so maybe it's got to be something that is a little more, that they're more at home with. So instead of praying 3 times a day, whoa, I haven't prayed since, before COVID on Yom Kippur, So maybe that's a little too distant. Maybe Kiddush Friday night with your family. Get your family around the table, make a Kiddush, sanctify the day, have some challah, kosher wine, kosher bread, and challah and the like. Maybe that'll be, and just do it, So maybe that's something that'll be easier for them. And then from there, maybe they'll be more open to tefillin or some other kind of mitzvah, give tzedakah, maybe learn Torah, or whatever the case may be. The point I'm making is that the uniqueness in our generation is down up, because that's the concept of Mashiach ultimately, is from within, not from beyond or above. That the reality of God is a reality from within my world, not beyond my world. And therefore, introducing a mitzvah to somebody can sometimes just be, just do it. You don't understand it, you don't feel it, but you do it because, again, it's part of the DNA. I had this week, actually 2 people. Now, maybe what led them to do this was, one had COVID, another one, their brother is sick, so so they wanted to put on tefillin. So I FaceTimed them, showed them how to do it. And here we're kind of a lockdown over here a bit, whatever. Some craziness, but whatever, that's a different issue. And help them with it. And it, they came to doing an action. I don't know how much they understand and appreciate it, But that will come, and needs to be provided. But there can be the other way around also. So it's important, and that's actually very unique. Hey, what's Chabad known for? We stand on a street corner, 14-year-old boy asks a 70-year-old man, "Are you Jewish?" Right? And the man answers, hopefully honestly, that if he is, he is. So would you like to do a mitzvah? No explanation, no understanding, just, hey, just do it. And what does a Jew do? It puts on tefillin. Okay, some people decline, others, okay, but it's, because ultimately, actually, Mark, is that talking to you?
No, it's not good, Rabbi. It's fantastic.
God bless you. So let me share with you. My wife and I, I used to be running the Chabad house on campus, McGill University, and when it was Sukkot time, so we used to go with my kids. Let's say they were 12, they were 10 years old, 8 years old, 6 or 12, 10, whatever the age were. A couple of years apart they were, and about a bunch of kids roaming between the McLennan Library and the Red Path Library, and it was the path that many of the students would, between classes, take to go from one class to another. And we were there with Lulav and Esrog, and you would see, you come up to a Jew, and sometimes, so you come up to someone and say, "Oh, today is Sukkot, come do the mitzvah," and the girl would say, "Oh, I haven't done this since high school," and then she would start making the bracha, and she would be all kind of emotional about it, and it was beautiful, and do the mitzvah. And then sometimes we had the Jew that we saw in the yonder that they saw us, and they made a beeline in the other, in a 90-degree angle. My kids would run after them and say, "Are you Jewish?" And they said, "Come do the mitzvah." He says, "No, I got to go to class." And sometimes they were with a non-Jewish friend that says, "Well, we don't have class for 10 minutes. The kid's asking you something. Well, why don't you, So, and sometimes the non-Jew would embarrass them to do the mitzvah, and they did the mitzvah. So, and they did the mitzvah. My point in this is that the person who embraced the mitzvah, and they, sometimes were emotional about it, and the one who wanted to make a beeline and wanted to escape the mitzvah, in the end, they're really the same. One embraced it, and one wanted to push it away. Why did one want to embrace it? Because it's a reflection of them. The mitzvah is part of the DNA of a Jewish soul. The one who wanted to run away from the mitzvah was because the DNA of their soul is also mitzvah, but they want to repress it. They don't want to have anything to do with it. The non-Jew wasn't an expression of them, so therefore they could be very, very matter-of-fact about it. The Jew can't be matter-of-fact about it, but the non-Jew could be, because it's not an expression of their soul, so therefore they would say, "Hey, what's the problem over here? The kid's asking you, it's a big deal." For the Jew, it's a big deal. It's me. So that's why sometimes starting a mitzvah, or starting and engaging a person, you can start with the mitzvah itself, because it is there, every Jew's DNA.
Hey, Rabbi Yasher Koach, and I just want to share one quick little story from Rabbi Gil Locke, so I'm sure you know.
Sure.
From Shalayim, he bar mitzvahed one of my sons, and he told me the story, and he also made a YouTube of it that's, I think, got a lot of views, so anybody in the audience could look it up, because he would tell it a lot better than me, and I'm going to make it really quick. But it's basically when he was not a 14-year-old, but he was asking people if they're Jewish and trying to get them to lay tefillin in Los Angeles, and you encounter a lot of negativity, and one particular fellow started swearing at him and saying, "How dare you," and was just really nasty, and it affected Rabbi Gil, and he thought about it a lot, but anyway, when it was over, he tried to forget it, and then fast forward several years later, he's living in Jerusalem, and he's at the Kotel, the shliach at the kotel, and he sees a Jew who comes up to him and he's crying. He says, "Do you remember me?" And it was the same fellow that had said, really nasty things and not wanted at all to do the mitzvah. And he said, "I want you to know that you had a massive impact on me, because I went home and I looked myself in the mirror and I started crying. I said, what have I become that I would treat a rabbi that way?" And because of that, I went and I put on the pair of tefillin that I hadn't seen in 20 years that I got for my bar mitzvah, and I've been laying it every day since then.
Wow, what a beautiful story. What a beautiful story. Thank you so much for sharing that. All right, beautiful, beautiful. All right, folks, there are some questions that are left over, but my apologies. I can't continue now, so I want to just wish everybody an amazing day. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you for Chabad Zuch and Kadesh in Montreal, Canada. If you want to get more of this, go on to the TanyaRabbi.com website that has all of this stuff, and share it with others. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for joining.